Talking today about wireless charging on the moon. That is something, Greg Nichols, that we definitely don't talk about every day. We talk about wireless charging quite often as it applies to our homes and here on Earth, but a major announcement about an Earthbound company that is bringing its charging technology to space. This sounds really cool.
Yeah. This was a fun one to dig into. What's going on here is a company called WeBotic, which makes wireless charging and energy management solutions for all kinds of technologies in the enterprise, like drones and industrial robots. Announced a big partnership to develop wireless charging solutions for robots on the moon. And they're going to join in this big contract. It's a multi-million-dollar contract with another robotics company called Astrobotic, as well as Bosch and the University of Washington. This is part of NASA's Tipping Point program. So, WeBotic, they specialize in wireless charging for like military, industrial, commercial robots, and all sorts of punishing environments here on Earth, like warehouses, dusty deserts, mining operations, things like that. This is most definitely the first attempt and the first crack at taking wireless charging, their technology or any wireless charging technology into space. So pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you talk about, explain what wireless charging is really and how does it work?
Yeah, right. It's almost something we've started to take for granted, right? With those like cell phone charging pads that are now pretty ubiquitous. So the technical name for it is inductive charging, and it really could have a major role in the future of a whole bunch of different technologies beyond the consumer space. It's highly attractive for space, specifically where solar has a lot of severe limitations, and docking and redocking with kind of physical docking apparatuses is impractical because it really adds a lot of complexity and a lot of opportunity for things to go wrong in a really devastating way. When you're talking about space, where there really is no margin for error. So the technology actually works the exact same way that those charging pads for cell phones works. It's just on a bigger scale, and this goes back to kind of like physics or electronics 101, where you have an alternating electrical current which creates an electromagnetic field as it flows through a conductor, and if a second conductor is placed alongside the first, that electromagnetic field will induce electrical current in the second conductor as well. So the transmission range and how much current you're getting through that is completely scalable. So you can actually boost that up to a level where you can actually charge things like robots and lunar rovers, things like that.
Great. That's it. It's so cool. And when you talk about the technology though being used currently, or how is it, where would we see that?
Yeah, so WeBotic has been one of those companies leading the way, again, in the industrial space for wireless charging. And robots and drones are kind of where they've specialized. So, earlier this year, the company got a big vote of confidence from the FCC, and we covered this at ZDNet, when it was granted equipment authorization for high-powered transmitters and receivers to deliver up to 300 watts of wireless power in spaces like warehouses, where robots kind of continually have to go about doing pick and place operations or ferrying materials from one side of the warehouse to another. And if you can have this kind of wireless docking infrastructure, you can really start to build a 24/7 automated system. The same is true with drones doing inspections, for example, where they might return to a base. If you don't have to physically plug them in, you can really start to orchestrate a system that can be lights out with your automation technologies, because the charging can happen, pretty much autonomously as well, which is a big leg up. You have less downtime. So it's spaces like that where we've primarily seen the technology in the enterprise world, inspection and in warehouses. It's the extraterrestrial brief is definitely new. What they're specifically going to be doing here is developing rapid charging systems for lunar robots, like again, the partner company Astrobotic. They make a small, they call it a cube rover, and another partner on the project, Bosch, it's going to contribute their software to help manage the wireless connectivity and intelligent AI. And the University of Washington is going to help do the testing and the validation for the entire system too.
Very good. And well, and that leads me to what would be my last question. You've somewhat started to answer it is why would it be beneficial to have this actually in space?
Yeah, power is kind of the big challenge whenever you're talking about any robotics application. Never more so when you're talking about a space application where it's very difficult to deliver power. So the traditional way that power has been delivered to the batteries in space is with solar, or they've actually, believe it or not, used small nuclear reactors for things like rovers. But it's always a compromise between power and weight. And for long-lasting power, tethers or large battery banks have always been necessary, which really limits the range of those robots that can be used in space. Cables are also kind of a notorious weak point on the lunar surface, where you've got a lot of dust kicking up when you're actually moving around, and it's like freezing cold, especially when the sun disappears. So the idea here is that Webotics proximity charging solution is going to allow robots to, wirelessly charge from a base station or inside lunar landers that are actually distributed across the surface of the moon. So you begin to have like a power grid infrastructure on the moon that's completely wireless. So these lunar rovers can now start to, they do exploration missions. They can go further afield and continually recharge en route without those kind of high probability of failure tasks like docking in a station, where if it goes wrong even an X percentage of the time, it's too high a risk for space. So this really opens up those possibilities in a really cool way.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, really cool stuff here. Greg, I'm sure it was interesting to get to dig into it a little bit. And I know we have much more on this, of course, on wireless charging on the moon on ZDNet. And we hope you will check out Greg's full article there. Thanks so much for watching.